Hello, and welcome back to the Event Modeling and Event Sourcing podcast with your hosts, Martin and Adam. Hello, Martin.
Hello, Adam. How are you?
Great. Good to see you as always. Big week this week. Noticed something, a nice surprise. It's almost like Christmas. Wake up to a nice present. Well, I look and there's this companion course or something to do with your book. Can you explain what's going on here?
In January, I'm doing the in-person course for the book. Basically, you can join in person, and if you want to learn how event sourcing works, maybe that's a good chance to try it. So if you like the book, if you like the online course, you will most probably love this one. We'll see.
That's excellent. So what's the format?
So it's really building a slice-based architecture. It's really starting from scratch, exactly as in the book, building a system slice by slice. The one thing people really want to see is they love slices, they love event modeling, they love everything, but what they don't know is, okay, how do I do this in practice? And this is exactly what we will be doing there. It's 2 half days, really just going through a system, building a system slice by slice, really showing how it works, and also seeing, okay, what happens if requirements change? How do you adjust the model? How does that work? How do you build slices? Just seeing how we are working in the real world. That's what I want to show.
Right. So it's not. I saw the word course, so it's not. It's more of a workshop then.
It's a workshop.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. Okay. So a January workshop.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Now we have probably by the time this episode's out, we probably would have had the other half day with both of us. So that'll be a good intro to it. So there's an intro in case this episode does make it before December 9th, then that's people would have already had it. So, okay, well, that's good.
Hopefully that will fill up quickly. There's always these workshops are always a lot of fun. I'm already looking forward to that one.
Yeah, same. So, okay, good. So that's good so that people have more resources to learn all this stuff. And of course the book should be by your side. Always, I recommend that to anyone if they're wondering about how these things come together. And I think it's a really good starting point and a good prep for any of these workshops or courses or whatever. Is if you already have gone through the book, I think you're going to have a much better chance of learning the next level when you go and actually practice this with me or Martin or whoever's doing these courses. So yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's just providing more resources how to learn them. Some people learn more by reading. Some people learn more by doing online courses. There's also the online course that you can take, and some people just want to see how do these people with a little bit more experience do this.
Yeah.
So whatever works, just do whatever works for you, and then something will click, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you expose yourself to the many different formats, and then you'll have the greater chance of success.
Yeah.
And of course, it's not that you have to pay for these things. There's always the Discord channel. If you absolutely can't, or you don't have the schedule or the money or whatever, you can always find Martin, myself, and other practitioners on the Discord channel, which you can get on the resources page of the eventmodeling.org site. So we always have that at the closing credits too. The links are there for everything. Speaking of which, I think I might have to change your address because you've consolidated everything now to a different site, right?
Oh yes, I started to. So I had all these articles and everything. I started to consolidate everything on one page. So if you want to read anything I've written at any point in time, you will find it there.
Okay, good. Because you write a lot on LinkedIn.
I do.
Things like that. As do I.
This would have been impossible without AI. So what I basically do is I just throw AI at all this stuff and say, okay, translate this to English, migrate this.
Right. AI. Yes, I forgot. You only switched to English recently. So there's a whole bunch of things that I had to hit translate on LinkedIn to read. And I always was still reading and commenting and reposting stuff, even though it was written in German. It translates fairly well. So
it does.
Just with the translate button. But it's nice that you had AI kind of do the bulk of the work, and the other stuff can be cleaned up if needed. So that's really good. I'm happy that those older posts are getting new life, because I don't think everyone was as ready to hit the translate button and they go, oh, that's some German post. I don't know what it is, so I'm not going to take the energy to click the button. And so Yeah,
It's
that's
actually it's really I looked at it, what did I write? So it was about 700 posts about event modeling and event sourcing on LinkedIn, and it
yeah.
was about 50 blog articles. So
And
almost all
they're not one word or one paragraph. Like a lot of your posts
yeah,
are
they're long.
an entire article. Like they should
Yeah,
actually be articles. So
yeah,
if people are looking for more material, I think that's going to be uh, quite a good resource for you to go through more stuff. And now, of course, people can use AI to say, "Hey, read this to me,"
yeah.
and
And the crazy thing is, most of that stuff is not written by AI. Of course, I use AI
exactly.
for quick corrections and stuff, but
Mhm.
I don't use AI for writing. So this is all is written by me. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But I'm just saying that there's AI tools that'll narrate things for you, right?
yeah, of course,
So which is wonderful. So if you're more of an audio learner, but you still want to take in all those articles, you can you know group them together and let AI generate a voice so you can listen to it while you're on a walk or
yeah.
exercising or out running or doing chores or something. You can sort of immerse yourself into Martin's thought process, which is
Just because you mentioned that there was one person today that mentioned he was listening to everything we did, podcasts, all my videos, everything for one whole week.
oh
So
my
he sat
god.
down
Okay.
one whole week and he listened to every single video,
Yikes.
everything we recorded. He said he was hearing my voice all the time.
Oh no.
Okay, sorry for that.
Yeah, oh my goodness, I didn't know we were addictive, but okay. Well, I guess we're good for some people. That's nice to hear.
But
Um,
I'm really hearing this a lot. So people really do binge listen to our podcast.
I know it's crazy. Who wants to hear these crazies talk about this stuff?
Two
But
nerds
anyway,
talking about nerd stuff all the time and then binge listen to that? Really?
I think it's because I'll tell you why. There's a lot of podcasts out there that talk about programming or tech, but they kind of do the mainstream topics. So you're going to have, obviously this next month, everyone's going to be talking about Gemini 3 and all the different
Yeah,
tools you can use and blah, blah, blah. And it's just going to be one after another. But no one's actually focusing every single day and every single week on writing systems systematically, predictably, properly, not distracted by new things. So I think it might give people an anchor in like saying, I can still focus on what I set out to do in my career and build great systems. These guys are showing me that they're not really distracted and changing their entire process because a new AI thing came out.
yeah,
The fundamental concepts absolutely do not change, and I can get those concepts, and no one else talks about that. There's too many clickbaity topical things where you can just get the generic views from everyone, and they'll listen to, oh, what's Google doing? Oh, what's Anthropic doing?
yeah,
Oh, I don't know. I find that I'm swimming in that information, and I sort of don't even care where that information comes from. So every time that I have like a slight a different take on something, someone doing something extra special or someone doing something differently, those things give me better insight and all that. And I do that
yeah,
with investing and anything else that I'm interested in, open source or whatever. I'm trying to get, I'm not looking at the open source thing that everyone's doing. It's like, oh, there's this great open source command line thing for managing, I don't know, your cloud infrastructure or whatever. I want to go to the guy that's writing his own driver for his own Linux thing and using open source to this deeper level.
yeah,
No one's doing that. And that gets me this fresher, experience with the whole idea of open source. Investing, I like to look at contrarian things. I had this post on LinkedIn just this week that said, master powerful concepts, don't be afraid of them,
yeah,
right? I don't think people know what that really means. Powerful concepts don't mean they're popular or
yeah.
easy, right?
I
Or at
mean,
least easy to switch to, because event
yeah,
sourcing is easy, but people don't realize how hard it is to let go of the garbage they've gotten used to.
Yeah.
So that the
I mean,
the hard part isn't the event sourcing itself. The hard part is realizing that you've been practicing something else entirely, and
yeah,
now there's a discipline and and sort of a incentive, and you need the get go to move to something else, and that requires effort. So back to the point, these alternate ways of looking at things. I think that's why this podcast is successful and people
maybe.
are listening to it, is because we don't bring up what you hear on every other podcast, right?
Yeah.
And
So
people say, "Oh, you're investing and you're using options and you're going to go broke." It's like, no, I've mastered options in the '90s, and now the tooling's become even better. In something like 2021, we've had options that expire daily now, so you have even more options, no pun intended, of how you manage risk in your portfolios and all that. So, I mean, this contrarian thing, gold was on the way up. I don't know. It's so. This is kind of neat. People might actually understand something about investing and trading is actually quite important. All these financial things, love event sourcing is one of the reasons that I am in event sourcing, is because I did a lot of this financial sort of trading and investing stuff throughout the many years. And so this was a natural thing. I think we have quite a few followers on LinkedIn that are writing trading systems.
yes,
Forget their names off the
yes,
top of my head, but
indeed.
they always do comment, and they're
Yeah.
using all of these concepts because they
Few
need
algo traders there.
they need the facts, the accounting like way of writing a system. There's
Yeah.
no room for mistakes. We don't want any of these trading systems to sink a company and empty out a portfolio because of a bug and all of that stuff. So it's really important. But like one example from that is, gold is going on this big tear, and same with silver. And I remember seeing one news article, seeing how people are lined up around the block in like Australia and other places to buy gold, because they're running out of gold bars and coins in places because of the price they want to. So I'm like, okay, there's no more people that are willing to sell. Everyone's a buyer. This is obviously a top. And I did something that most people would say is crazy because you're going against the trend. And I bought the contracts for a lower price by 10% on Monday evening, which is an odd time. But it was once that news sank in that over the weekend, these people were lining up. And sure enough, we had that huge correction. Like
Mhm.
gold just tanked the next day. And that was a 10 times return on the money. So I think most people don't do this. Most people don't do event sourcing. Most people don't do run open source things because they can.
Yeah.
It's so I think we attract the people that are not wanting to play the regular game. They don't want to be the best average person. They want to
Yeah.
be better than average. And so
Maybe that is the reason.
yeah,
Maybe
so
that is, and I must say, I really enjoy just talking to a normal person and not someone who is not talking about it. I cannot, whenever I hear AI, I really cannot hear it anymore. The latest AI
yeah.
tool, it's so boring, really. It's so boring. Also on LinkedIn, everybody's writing about AI tools and stuff, nothing about the real world. Oh, it's really, it's so
Yeah,
boring.
exactly. They're highly distracted by everything.
Yeah.
I'm not a luddite, and I'm not going to say AI is bad. I'm actually
No, no, not at
I'm
all.
quite happy to use the better tooling. I'm here's another little project. So I showed you before. I don't have this green screen here, but I have a lot of plants in my house, and it kind of gets tedious to see. Oh, this one's small, so I have to water it, every 3 days, and these ones are larger ones. I water them every 2 weeks or something like that. It's kind of a pain in the butt to remember sometimes. I mean, I like plants. I wouldn't say it's a pain, but it is work. And what I hate is forgetting to water one and like, oh no, it's wilting, and I have to rescue it. And I'd rather have something that tells me that. So what did I use for research, right? Of course, I'm going to use AI to research how to make an IoT project, right? There's these tiny batteries you can get with small solar cells and
Yeah.
little circuits that the battery will charge up over a long time. But then once it gets to a certain threshold, it'll turn that circuit on, and that little circuit will connect to the Wi-Fi, take the reading of a pressure sensor. So you can have a gradient of how heavy the pot is over your watering cycle. And a central thing will tell you that, hey, these are the pictures of the plants you need to water today.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
the
Very
key
cool.
idea is like, well, how much research would it take to find all the small components? Because I want these to be tiny, to hide behind the pots, so you don't see
Yeah.
them in the living room, and they're not in your eyesight. But you kind of understand that pot, without going to it and lifting it up, is light. It needs watering. The soil's dry,
Very
right?
cool.
So,
Yeah.
the research that like the AI will do is compressing, Googling around for 2 days for all these
Yeah.
parts. Instead,
Yeah.
I say what I want, like the size restrictions, the operation schedule. Once every 6 hours is good enough. So I don't need a really big battery. I don't need a really big solar cell. And I just need a burst of energy to be on for like a minute, take the reading, connect to the Wi-Fi, write that to a central location of what the pressure sensor is reading. Let the
Yeah.
central thing figure it out, right? And that's it. It could be a cool product, It could make a little patent for it, and it would be a fun little project, maybe for my son to kind of run his own little company or something like that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
I like
I
the idea.
love this stuff. And guess what? That
Yeah.
system's event sourced.
Of
Right?
course. No,
Every
no
reading's an
question
event.
about that.
Every reading's an
What
event,
else?
and of course, I'm going to write it in an event sourced manner.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the interesting thing about these things is that I don't have to discuss, how great Gemini is, or how great Chat GPT is, or whatever. Everyone knows they're great, and everyone knows they're leapfrogging each other every month. Big deal. But we
Yeah.
do want to highlight one AI thing, and I think it's kind of ironic that you're talking about. I don't want to hear about AI anymore, but we do
Yeah.
want to highlight one article, right? Which you found through a YouTube review of it.
Actually, I found it through a customer.
Oh, okay, great.
I found it through a customer. That
So
was
this is
really
another point. It's so important to be an independent contractor and consultant, because you get to meet with so many interesting people that can help you find new things in life, right? You're always
absolutely,
at a new company.
absolutely. The best part of my job is really how much different companies I see, how much different projects I see, all these problems people have. This is really really interesting.
It's
And this one
amazing.
this one was really interesting because this is a to be customer, so they are not yet really customers, but I'm in contact with them for a long long time.
As it is in
And
this industry. In our consulting thing, these contracts
yes,
take forever, which is fine. We don't
yes,
mind. It
yes,
eventually
for
happens.
months, reconnecting every few months, just checking in. How is it going? What about event modeling?
Yeah.
And now they came to me. They came to me and they said, "Hey, now we can start." So
Yeah.
I thought, why? What happened? Well, there is this new research paper that came out, basically scientifically proving that event modeling works. That is what we needed. Now let's get started. Okay, interesting. What paper was that? Let me look up the title. So the title of the paper was "Solving a Million Step LLM Task with Zero Errors."
Yeah.
Is the paper, and it's basically really in this paper. It's coming from Cognizant Labs, Cognizant AI Labs, and in this paper they are basically really talking about event modeling. This whole paper is about event modeling. What they do is they looked at the current, how reliable are current LLMs, no matter which one. So they looked at all these LLMs, and basically, the more steps you have, the more steps they need to do to solve a certain task, the more likely the error that they make errors. And it's around 100 steps. There is the crucial point where all these LLMs start to break down. If you have bigger tasks and they take more than 100 steps to do that, they basically break down and they cannot do it. And in this paper, they researched, okay, how can we do a 1,000,000-step process without a single error? How does that work? So guess what they came up with?
Yeah. It's equivalent of a slice.
Exactly. The trick is you cannot give it these big tasks. You need to break it down, make it small, make it 1,000,000 small steps that you can solve independently.
Yeah. But just
And the first thing I
imagine
said is,
how.
wait a second. That's what we're talking about for years now.
I know.
That is a slice. You're talking about
It was
slices.
always there. Yeah.
Yeah, really funny.
But
And if you
it's
yeah,
really
go
weird,
on.
because I think people that read this paper are going to contort themselves to try and get their regular AI workflows and their regular one giant model, no event history. They're going to try and contort that into some shape that's slice-like. And they're going to have a much harder time until they really start to discover event sourcing and event modeling. So we'll see. And I mean, I like this, this whole thing. I think that this idea of the context window having to grow with the size, I don't think it's 1-to-1. I think it's an exponential thing because of the permutations of the code. Just because you have more tokens doesn't mean that the tokens represent the same complexity. As you're adding more if statements and other conditions in the code, the actual complexity that you're trying to cram in through those tokens is actually much higher. It keeps multiplying. So no matter how good these large language models get, the scope will always be a problem. And so this goes like, you need to fundamentally solve the core problem, which is get the scope down to something reasonable. And the most minimal reasonable scope that you have is what's behind me, these slices.
Yes.
They are the smallest pieces that you can say. And this is interesting. There's a correlation here. In Cursor, you can just keep typing in the chat window and keep adding and adding and adding and adding and adding to change things. If you press Control N to make a new chat, it erases the previous context. That is the best thing you can do, because it starts to show that, yes, this is the perfect slice-like way of working. So I naturally don't want to have a conversation continuing through, vibe coding, kind of just keep adding more and more and more and more prompts, or improve, whatever you did the previous step. It's like, nope, you reject it, but you always press, Control N to start over and get your scope right, so that with one prompt, you get exactly what you need. That's how you need to understand your scope. And the only way you'll really hit that stride is once you event model something and have the really constrained pieces of moving state from A to B. And that scope, AI is going to nail. But if you say, hey, I need state from A to B to C to D to E and F, and you put that in one prompt, it's not going to get it. That complexity curve, is going to kill it, right? And this is why we, on the previous podcast, were saying, you don't want the way you work or your systems to be dependent on how good the LLM is. You want your systems to be so good that the stupid ones can still help you.
And you know what? That was one of the conclusions of this paper.
Yeah, that's right.
Their conclusion was, if you do this, if you take this, there's absolutely no need to take one of these big models. A small, crappy model is more than enough. So you can have a million tasks done by a crappy model with 0 errors. This will work. And this is exactly what we said many times in this podcast, and also last week in the discussion with Allard in our fireside talk.
Yeah,
it was the same thing.
It doesn't erase the need for the large language models for research and all of that, where you have to scour and cast a wide net for research. But for focused tasks, for being able to automate a system, it's quite the opposite. So it'll be interesting if any AI infrastructure or company that's at the sort of selling the pickaxes and shovels so that we can do our work, if they're going to actively try to shut down this paper or drown it out with other noise, because it takes away from the narrative that you must have continually better and more powerful models to keep moving forward. There are things that are incredibly attainable with what we have now, and we haven't even mastered how to use them the best. So, there's it goes back to the .com days and the early days of the internet. You already had HTML, you already had hyperlinks. I was talking to a friend the other day, and there's these like moments in your career that make you feel like nothing else before. For me, there's like a few of those in my whole history. The first time that I got my Commodore 64, used the Commodore 64 and typed in the first commands, and the computer did what I wanted it to do. That was, the hair on your arm stands up. There's these moments that you're like, wow, the world's awesome. Humans have created great things. You
I
know,
remember this very well. I had the
yeah,
very same.
you
But
know,
for me, it
so
was
this is
it was an Amiga, not a
yeah.
computer.
Oh, because you're younger than me. My
Yes.
Amiga was the second one for me after that. But yeah, there was Amiga with multitasking had another miniature moment of that, dragging one entire screen to show another screen behind there. So it wasn't only Windows that you could multitask in on an Amiga. You could actually take entire screens with different resolutions and different color palettes and move
Yeah,
them down. So you could have an entire video game with a
it
different
was amazing,
resolution.
amazing.
It was incredible. And all of
Yeah,
this, I think, when Amigas came out the first time, they had preemptive multitasking on 256 kilobytes. Um, you know, just for comparison, preemptive proper multitasking wasn't even available on something like a Mac until 2000 or something, like the year 2000. The Amigas were doing this in the early 80s, and they had incredible color palettes, and everyone was like talking about how great their Macintoshes and was black and white, and their sound was horrible. This thing had like 4 channels of stereo sound with proper sampling, and yeah, it was a really good computer, and I remember having
yeah.
that moment too. But then there was others, like when I realized I didn't have to do all the agile stuff because event sourcing finally removed all the obstacles. That was another one of those moments, like, okay, I cannot, you know, when I saw the Commodore 64, I must have it, right? Same with the
Yes.
Amiga. It was like, I need this. This is amazing. And I used an Amiga all the way through the 90s. Like I did all my college stuff on it and everything, learned
Cool.
C and all sorts of stuff. I kept using it for a long time. It was a wonderful computer. And so, yeah, the same thing happened with event sourcing. It was like, I can't do anything else. This is unlocked
Yeah.
so many things for me. The complexity I don't have to think about anymore. The problems I don't have anymore. They're all gone. I had this really good feeling, and then I remember this was back to the getting frustrated with having a new JavaScript framework every month, and just to get things done very quickly. By the time 2020, 2019, maybe 7 years ago, 6 years ago, it was just a pain in the ass to become a developer because you're inundated with a brand new framework. You had to have no life to be really good because you had to learn so much. And then I
Yeah.
remember the first time with Chat GPT-3, I remember I was at a meetup, security meetup for my friend, and I had my laptop and I was just like, oh, let's try this. And I had a web page I was working on, and I had some buttons on there on the web page. And I said, well, I want these buttons to be reactive. And I forget the syntax for the transitions on CSS and all this, for the effects for buttons, like if they can fade or pop or wiggle or
Yeah.
whatever. Say, okay, make this wiggle and pop these seconds. And it just did it. I'm like, what? That was another one of those moments. I don't have to go and learn this JavaScript framework and that to do this. This just did it for me. Like I want to understand the concepts, but I don't want to have to go and spend 4 hours researching how the signatures and all of these different functions happen to coincide together. So I do this. It's just like, here's your answer. This is what all that research that you would have done over the next
Yeah.
2 hours or hour or whatever. Here it is in a few seconds. I'm like, oh my god, that is like one of those moments. Like,
For me, it was CSS. It was not JavaScript. It was CSS. So wait a second. I don't have to understand CSS anymore. I don't
yeah,
need to remember
yeah. It
this
was a
quirky
combination. It was
thing.
HTML, all the W3C standards, right?
Yeah.
That they have because there's this element now works this way. It has now these attributes. Like, how do you keep up with that? And then, yeah, CSS, of course. Yeah, the famous Peter Griffin from Family Guy, getting CSS right with the blinds. I don't know if you remember that meme.
No. No.
Oh, okay. Well, you're gonna have to watch this episode because I'm gonna put that in for sure. Anyway,
Nice.
yeah, CSS is a nightmare, of course, and then there's some limitations of CSS in terms of even the variables and having dynamic things in there and how you nest things, and
Oh, I hate it.
it's
I
a
really
mess,
hate it.
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, even in JavaScript too, there's the library. It's not the JavaScript itself. I mean, it has its ugly parts, like how strings and numbers get convoluted together and
Yeah.
in arithmetic and things like that. But it's more about the all the hidden complexities in the libraries and how you use them. Then, of course, things like callbacks versus promises. Sometimes, like, oh, man, how do I do async versus sync? There's like 5 different ways that with
Yeah.
promises and this thing you can do things. So yeah, JavaScript gets called an ugly language, but if you just stick to one way of doing things, it's no problem. And AI can get you through that quite easily because there's plenty of
Yes.
examples that AI has been trained on, so that you can make some snippet of code use promises instead of your callbacks or something like that. So it's quite good. And you're not wrestling with the syntax, right? You're just getting the state from A to B. As we keep talking in event sourcing and event modeling, look, I don't care how it's done. Just move this state from this to this, and here are your conditions for success. Here's your given when.
Yeah.
So I love that. Okay, back to the original point. This article is one of those kind of things that also says, finally, the industry's, moving in the right direction.
That was the word I used, literally. Finally.
Mhm.
Finally, someone who recognizes it. And it's not a developer. These are scientific people.
Yeah.
This is important. It's really important. And what they came up with is they have this maker, they call this the maker framework. I forgot what this acronym is meaning, but they have a theoretical concept how to apply this. And I said immediately, hey, I can tell you how to apply this in the enterprise context. You can use this today. It works. We know how to do this.
In information management systems. I mean, we can always say that safely. It's like if you're doing an inventory system, you're doing a point of sale system, you're running an insurance company. These are information management systems that they operate, right? They're not trying to apply this to some esoteric algorithm in a university for balancing a B tree.
Yeah.
This is like getting information from A to B, transforming it a little bit. And I think at this level, it's incredibly easy to apply. And maybe because it's a paper, the scientific paper, they're probably swimming in academic problems, and they don't realize that they have a very simple problem that represents 99% of the world's systems that manage information, right? So yeah, it'll be interesting. Maybe we can chat to them, find out who they are, and see if we can get a conversation going about this, because it would be interesting to see their take on what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will in the upcoming week I will write a few times about this paper. So for me, it's a really important.
That's the I told you so moment. We never want to say that because it's not nice, but there's an I told you so, right?
But I don't know if that's coincidence. Lately, I have quite a few of these. Hey, I told you so moments. Yeah. Spec-driven development is another one. So it's not that new as you might think. So there are people who do this for years already.
Yeah, exactly. It's what's old is new again, as long as it's part of the new AI trend. Because maybe people weren't able to switch to something else because there wasn't kind of a huge shift in the industry to give them an excuse to look at new tools or new ways of thinking. And now we have that. So for me, it always goes back to, like, I don't care even about this paper or anything like this. I mean, I do care, but to me, the biggest benefit of all of this is just that all industries are being shaken to their foundations. They're like, all the stuff that you got away with is coming to an end. All the dysfunctional things that are problematic. What's happening in the industry now, those will be very apparent very quickly. And like we have right now, it's very apparent that if your requirements suck, you're going to have a problem. AI is going to show you that immediately. You're going to realize that, hey, your specifications are more important than code quality. Look how much faster you go with better specifications rather than if you focus on code quality. Because AI changed it for you. They changed the playing field entirely. The feedback loops are entirely much, much shorter. You can't get away with this busy work and distractions from what really matters. It's an interesting world. So this maker paper, I only saw the. I didn't read the paper itself. I did see the YouTube video that was out there. It did pass by me. I didn't click on it, but it's funny that I already saw it in my feed, and you got it as a recommendation from one of your clients.
Yeah.
So I was going to click on it. It was like in my, if this comes up again, I'm going to click on it to view it. But I'm so hesitant to click things.
Oh, me too.
It's just more of this kind of same AI stuff over and over again. So I don't want to waste time. So the minute that you said this, I'm like, okay, with Martin seen it, I got to see this, right? So immediately I went and saw it. It's
Yeah.
worthwhile. So maybe this is another feature of the podcast, is that what we're not going to promote is the same old that you see in every other um, podcast out there. Is when Martin says, "Hey, this paper is good," you'll be able to easily say, "Okay, I can spend some time on this." It's not something that's just hype or part of the regular cycle of AI updates.
I could not recommend a hype paper because I don't read them. So if I recommend something, typically it's
Well, I'm
not
not saying that they're necessarily hype, but they're just more of the same. I mean, a lot of them
yeah, of
are
course.
I mean, good, but they're kind of already, along a certain narrative. They're not showing a new perspective, and I think this paper shows that
Exactly.
that key part is like, look, you need to, what we've been actually saying on the podcast before. You need a stupid. Remember, I told Allard, I'll be impressed if your system works with a stupid LLM.
Yeah.
And then this paper comes out later. Like I
Yeah.
said that to him in front of you at the conference, right? This is
Yeah.
what I'm going to be impressed with. It's like, I don't care that the latest Claude thing works well with what you've done. Show me your stuff working with a stupid LLM. The stupider, the better.
Yeah.
That means your system's that good.
And I mean, it works. You can throw your stupidest LLM at a slice and it'll just do the job. That is just fine. Yeah. Beautiful. So
Yeah.
I'm actually reading. I'm reading the paper. So I haven't read it fully. I have read about half of it, but I'm reading it very thoroughly and in detail. So I really like what I'm seeing there. It just proves what we are teaching for years now.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how people are resist suggestions, and it's tough. I remember having this. I think might have mentioned on an episode last year, but I remember trying to explain to someone how event sourcing actually limits the permutations that you have to test, where like with just the traditional TDD, whatever, I didn't have the time to really mathematically analyze the possibilities of values in an event, the impossibility of certain events being in a certain order in the history. Like those are sort of silent guarantees that help you really, really well. But it's hard to articulate how much good constraints just the fact that your event sourcing adds to the problem solving that now AI can look at, but before just you would have to face. So I could make a ton of really good guarantees about the shape of the data that I'm working with for testing invariants on state changes. And it was kind of funny because I had some smart people in the industry kind of argue that, oh, it doesn't matter that it's event sourcing. You're not putting anything with it. And I knew fundamentally by working with event sourcing from my own experience that the problem space shrinks to finite problems. And this slice architecture kind of embodies that. And now this paper kind of verifies it, that yes, there's, the idea that you're really limiting how much you have to think about, how many possibilities that just looking at a snapshot-based state system you no longer have to deal with. Because if you look at a snapshot, like here's a state of the world, single model, traditional relational database problem, you're almost forced to only look at code because that's the only place you can have stuff.
Yes.
And looking at the state as a whole just gives you endless possibilities, combinations to another degree, which doesn't help you solve problems.
And I really, I feel this very often when I have to look into these traditional architectures. You no longer have this. I love to work with slices. I just look at the slice. I know exactly what to do. Very focused task. As soon as I get into these traditional architectures, analyzing a legacy code base or whatever, you have to look at all these places. Oh, this is used here, and there's a reference to here. And suddenly everything is so confusing, and I really feel uncomfortable there immediately. I simply, if you learned how to think in slices, working in these architectures really is no fun because it simply makes no sense.
Yeah, exactly. So that was That was a very interesting paper. I'm very happy that it's there. So, in terms of helping people understand that for themselves, what's a good thing for people to kind of look at? Is it just the given when-thens on a particular slice, and just understanding that the history of events that you're considering is a subset of everything happening? And how would you use this paper to explain the benefits of event sourcing, in your words, now that you've looked at it?
I really think what is really important. I mean, you have to look at the slices and you have to understand what a slice is. And I think this is really what many people struggle with. Thinking in these small work items, very small functional building blocks of a system. This is where many people struggle. Typically, they make these slices far too big. And then, of course, everything falls apart. This doesn't work. So they have to be small and they have to be composable. And thinking like that in slices, this is what people need to learn. And this is not something that you can read. You need to practice that. This requires a little bit of practice to do that, especially when you've been in the industry for a long time. Thinking like that is nothing that comes natural.
Yeah, it took me a few months to kind of get out of. I was still holding on. I mean, I can share what held me back from adopting a pure function event sourcing way of working, and that was I became really good at using mock objects in TDD and really, really having this joy about being able to stage the world outside of the function you're testing by having, this object that could be programmed to respond like the real system. And I wasn't ready to let it go, but then finally the snap in my mind came with like, why are you doing all this work to simulate the real world through these programming concepts and having these weird classes that act like fakes or stubs or whatever, where you literally can just use the data in the events to do that? And there's like no programming concept at all that has to be produced for you to have the same effect to simulate the outside world of what you're testing. And surprisingly, because I was good at something stupid that I didn't need to do, I was reluctant to let it go because I had so much energy invested in it. And I mean, I remember presenting this at QA meetups and everything else because it was all about DSLs as well. You could go take that to the next level and, present how you set up a mock or a fake via something that's business friendly, where you could, have a nice interface for, writing sentences and filling in the blanks with what the fake values are supposed to be. There's this entire idea of having fixtures is all coming from behavior-driven development. Like all of that went away. These slices, this way of working, made all that tooling redundant. It just doesn't need to exist at all.
Yeah.
So it was kind of I guess internally, like, hey, Adam, you wasted your time. I mean, I didn't really waste my time. I really understood that mindset of all of that, right? So, and I think that's the important piece is that, eventually I didn't, maybe at the time there's a small thing that's like, oh, well, do I have to let go of all this stuff that I learned? And then, you kind of realize that, you don't need that. And it's actually better because you're getting what you were aiming for without all of these extra steps, right?
Yeah.
There's a good Rick and Morty, that's just slavery with extra steps meme that kind of goes to, it's the episode of multiverses, one multiverse within another, and how they trick each internal universe to create energy for the outer one. And so everyone is duped into doing that. So that's kind of like, I was doing extra steps for the same thing, just to have what event sourcing gives me for next to nothing with all of these things. And I remember there was a Storyteller, there was Cucumber, there was depending on so there was a difference in frameworks. Like if you're a different stack, you had an entirely different set of tools to use. Just like ORMs, you had like Hibernate in Java, you had NHibernate in whatever. You had active record and Rails. Like all these
Yeah.
different things are slightly different or whatever. So the nice thing about event sourcing is that it's so pure in terms of the concept that it just transcends all of those previous things. So if I wanted to do BDD and I learned, Ruby on Rails and had something there, or, something in Cucumber or something in other frameworks. I don't even remember what they're called. It was Storyteller in .NET, and other things like that. It really divided the industry because you really had a wall now between like, hey, I'm a C# dev, I'm a Java dev, I'm a Java dev, I'm a Rails or Ruby dev.
Yeah.
That was horrible. And so the other thing that I liked about event sourcing is that whole idea that I don't need frameworks for doing the equivalent of mocks allows me to take that same concept and remove the sort of isolation that I felt with BDD frameworks from other things like dependency
Yeah.
injection. All of these other things that you kind of want to do, they're either irrelevant. Like I don't need dependency. I don't even think about dependency injection. The only thing that I'm seeing is state via events, and whether they're fake or actual production ones, there's not much difference. They're the same shape, etc. So I'm playing with the same stuff. Whether this next slice is done with JavaScript or Ruby, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's just data in events that I'm looking at. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you had the same kind of aha moment if you were jumping between technology stacks at all. I mean, I know you were fairly focused on Java for a
Oh no,
lot.
I was jumping quite a bit. Of course, in different projects, you have different stacks and different stuff. I had the very same experience.
Which
And
stacks were you jumping between? Because for me, it was .NET to Java and Node and Ruby. Those are the ones.
it was so mostly it's the JVM, which is Kotlin and Java, but also Node. I did Node projects and I also did some Go projects. So quite a few different stacks. But my focus is definitely on the JVM. That's where I'm at home. And since you mentioned, I don't think this was a waste of time learning all this. For me, I value the simplicity of event modeling and event sourcing and everything that comes with it so high because I've seen the opposite.
That's true.
I've seen the other side, so it's not a waste of time. And I mean, I was exactly like you. I was very deep into all these architecture stuff, and I really liked it. I was very good at it. But now looking at it, I mean, I wouldn't work like that anymore. But still, it was not a waste of time. I'm here where I am right now because exactly what I've learned in the past. So definitely not a waste of time.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you get into like people defending something like test driven development, and they're like, oh, you just haven't done TDD properly. It's like, no, I have. I've gone through so much test driven development that I came out the other side to realize that I've tried something else after it and I found something better, that I can objectively tell you the problems that TDD has. A lot of them are incredibly bad, but you will not understand until you've done something better. Because at this point, it seems like it's the epitome of what you can do. But until you've experienced a better way, you will see this as a maximum on the range you've been exposed to. So you'll continue to do it. And that's the trick. And I'm hoping that, these papers, the paper that we discussed today, just AI kind of allowing people to experiment a lot faster will open the door for people to say, okay, I will try this and give it, not just kicking the tires to see it over the weekend, but I will actually work this way for an entire project and just push through the problems and learn and mostly unlearn. Understand where I can drop things, and then I will see it. But once you've been past that and have done enough equal experience in both that you can make a fair judgment on that one. And so when I say to people, I have these problems with TDD, and they say, you're wrong, all this, what you're doing cannot be better than this. It's like, well, how long have you been doing what we've been doing with event sourcing and event modeling? Well, I go 0 hours. Well, then you don't know what you're talking about because you don't have an objective comparison of doing event sourcing and event modeling 24/7 for a number of years. at scale with many people, many clients, to be able to objectively say that it's not better than TDD, because it is. If you're just fundamentally doing a single abstraction over a database and you're trying to get the proper seams over the abstraction and do TDD, that all gets blown away the minute the requirements force you to have the suite under test have a different abstraction level. You're chucking a whole bunch of unit tests. No matter how good your unit tests were, they just no longer apply. And that is work that you're going to have to incur. Nothing about TDD is going to save you from that. So how do we say that we save people from that? Because event sourcing has a progression from the old way of doing things to the new way of doing things. You are not forced to dump the old abstraction. You move things together, right? So these concepts, unless you've done that, you cannot argue about how TDD can't do that, because you haven't experienced it, right? The big one is things that are kind of related to TDD. I think that we touched on in another episode, which was the schema migrations, and just like that to me is absolutely horrible. But all of these things are symptoms of practices that good things like TDD try to give you. And yeah, we can have unit tests. I don't call this TDD because we're not doing refactoring to the level that you would have in that. But they're like, oh, you're not testing. You're being like, you're just trying to design, and then if it doesn't work, you're throwing it away. It's like the vertical things behind me are tests. They're unit tests. But there's no reason to have this crazy red-green refactor for this stuff. It's pointless. There's no way. The red-green refactor is there because you need these safety nets to not destroy the entire project. A slice already has the boundaries, so you don't destroy the entire project. So the red-green refactor safety cycle is absolutely not needed. It's like having training wheels and you're in the Tour de France. You don't need the training wheels when you're Tour de France racing with the world's best cyclists, right? The training wheels will make you fall over. Can you imagine?
And even if you wanted
wheels on that, anyway.
Even if you wanted to work like that, I mean, what's there to refactor within a slice? These things are so simple. There is nothing to refactor.
Yeah, you can, but I mean, to me, whether I keep the tests running green or red, or do I care that one is red and then make the single one green? Who cares? I can with this. Exactly. I'm not really. I don't need to write it one test at a time. I can just say, I'm going to write all the tests, and I'm just going to make it all.
That's what I'm doing. I'm generating all the tests. If I have 5 given rendens, I'm generating all the tests, and then I have 5 red tests, and then I implement this license.
It hasn't slowed me down. It hasn't made the solution worse. It hasn't done any of the things that TDD claims.
Yeah.
So
actually, I'm even fine with not having all these tests in code. The longer I work with slices,
because it's immutable. That slice won't change. So
exactly.
Even if I've done a manual test, I know that it works. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm not writing a unit test thread because I know I'm not going to change it anymore. I don't care,
because I will never ever touch this slice again, and it will just continue to work. So as long as we discussed it, it's in the event model. We know how it works. I mean, it's fine to have to test in code, but if not, the world will not stop.
No, exactly. And that's the open close principle that's kind of at work here. In a slice-based event-sourced way of working, you're guaranteed not to have to touch code that you wrote before, which is why we can come back to projects years later and not feel overwhelmed, because we have the event model to kind of look at what's going on, and the new feature most likely is going to involve a new screen, a new set of events. It might use some of the old events, but we don't necessarily have to change them. If we do, we understand which slices we need to replace. There's none of this, I need to rely on my suite of tests to make sure I'm not breaking everything. And the same with like integration tests. Like people say this integration pyramid. There's no such thing. The abstraction of a long-running process or a top-level thing that's affecting lower things is replaced by having a good read model, a good green box, a good state view that shows you the progression of whatever you want to track over the long term, but you still test it in a unit test fashion. So the whole idea of integration tests is just out the window. We just don't do them. Anything that's like, we need to test infrastructure or whatever. Sure, we have some tests there, but guess what? Same thing. That infrastructure rarely changes. So what's the value of running the same thing? First of all, if those infrastructure things fail, your entire solution just topples over. The thing doesn't work. There's there's no real way to say that, oh, we have there's exceptions to it, but still, for the majority of the part, you're not walking on eggshells like with these other systems where you need this TDD safety thing around you all the time. Anyway, that's kind of how I see it.
I think the whole testing topic, that might be something for the next episode. That's another rabbit hole we could go into. Definitely.
Yeah, because I did have about 20 reasons why test-driven development is bad, and people like sacrilege. It's nothing but good. It's like, no, it's like even in that red-green refactor cycle of like getting the solution to be good enough, it's this idea that you say that code will always be in flux, which is such a horrible thing to sell to someone, that your code will always be changing. If that slice behind me always stays the same, why should it change when you're doing something on this side here and want to add more functionality? The reason, if that happens, you have a horrible system. That's a horrible way of working. So,
but this only happens if you have coupling everywhere.
That's the thing. There's underlying reasons why this is that TDD makes it opens the door for extra coupling, because the simplest thing that it tries to drive at, it actually does encourage the don't repeat yourself, because it's simpler to have less code. So then, but what does that do? That does the coupling, which is horrible. Yeah. So, okay, which is it then? Do you want simpler or more complex, because you're repeating the same function? You've coupled that work, right? But yeah, anyway, and there's also the quality thing. It's like, if I'm doing red-green refactor all the time, I know that the next feature or the next thing that's in the backlog may potentially change the code I wrote. So I subconsciously, and I say this as everyone, not just me, will not do the best effort to make that code really good, because in the back of my mind, I know that I'm going to refactor it anyway with the next thing. Or maybe I won't. Maybe that's the end of the sprint. Maybe that's the end of the release. But I don't know, because we have to work with blinders, only look at the next thing in the backlog, because we can't be distracted by future features. That's just a horrible, absolutely horrible way of working. So what happens then when someone says, okay, surprise, we're done. Oh, crap, the last iteration wasn't my best code. Can I go back and... No, it's done. I thought, okay, nope, sorry. That code and its quality is like, it's passing the test. So sorry, Adam, can't go fix that. Okay.
Yeah.
There's no refactor step at the last part? All right. No time. Got to release. No. So anyway,
the way I want to work anymore.
So this, but people I just don't understand that they have these great intentions of having really good code, really solid stuff, but the mechanisms that they employ have this. The minimalist part has this evil side to it that they don't care to acknowledge. With the don't repeat yourself, the lack of quality attention because of the potential to have the code change with the next refactor attempt. And they won't address that. And there's 18 more of these that I have about why it's bad, for legit reasons, not because, I don't like it, it's tedious to write a test first. I wrote test first for like 20 years. I know what it is. I know the benefits. I know the mindset behind like all of this. I'm not talking out of my butt. I've gone to that and I've seen the other side. Just like the mock frameworks that I loved and made really amazing DSLs for people to, I realize that it's nonsense, that it's extra unnecessary work, because I get better results with fewer moving parts when I actually have, fake events in a given when on an event source system. Any day, that's just absolutely, it works across technologies, across anything, does things without frameworks for BDD. Wonderful. Why would I need to carry all that extra weight and package? Like we keep saying, that event modeling and event sourcing is not about another tool in your tool belt. I hate this little excuse, dismissing it. It's just another thing you can have in your tool belt to be better because you have all these other skills. Just add it to your skills. No. You can drop that stupid heavy tool belt with 1,000 stupid things, with the schema migrations, with the TDD, with the BDD, with this framework, with that framework, all that garbage you can just drop and leave and have this one Swiss Army knife in your pocket and go run. Because that's what event sourcing and event modeling is. It's not about yet another tool in your tool belt. It's like, God, it's crazy. It's
But nobody believes you. If you say that, nobody believes you because they
No,
have never seen that in
no,
practice.
you have
How
to
that?
be there to do it, and
Yes.
so it's kind of hard. The challenge with this, and I guess why the podcast is interesting, is that it's like you need all of the help to kind of pull you over that, to give you the the chance to jump, and then just realize that there'll be so many people that don't want to see you succeed, that they don't want you to change the way they work because you've introduced event sourcing at their workplace. There's all of these obstacles. I'm not saying that this is for free. Like, that we've done the hard work to remove ourselves from the dysfunctional way that the industry works. And through my company, I've made that a point from day one that we only want to focus on event sourcing and event modeling, and that's it. We don't want to work any other way. And that was the place for us to get the experience that we needed.
Yeah.
And so most people don't have that, and so I understand. But I also do have a history of being an independent consultant, trying to get all the way from agile. So trying to get better before I realized there was something better than agile. But at the
Yeah.
time, I thought agile was the best, and so we have these experiences of trying to improve organizations. And so during that time, whether it's agile, moving people from non-agile to agile, moving people from agile to event sourcing and event modeling, we understand the objections and the obstacles that you face, and like we cover them in this podcast, right? There's
Yeah.
people that are afraid of losing their jobs because their skills are irrelevant. People that don't, maybe they're close to retirement, or maybe they see this as a threat that they're not going to be able to master a new way of working, or they don't have time to learn something new because they're busy with a family at home or whatever, right? So we did brown bag lunches at work. We forced management to say, look, on Fridays, people are burnt out anyway. Let's just have a hackathon on Friday afternoons to learn new things, right? Or another, just find ways to introduce a better way of working systematically within that. But it was incredibly, it's an incredibly hard thing to do depending on your organization. It can be very hard to do. Some are more forward thinking, and we have some clients that just understand, hey, this is a good way of working, and then it's about ensuring that the culture continues to thrive, because the natural propensity in these industries is to introduce more and more tooling, and we're at the opposite end. We remove tooling. Like, last place that I consulted was like, oh, people discovered Postman. I'm like, oh my God, really? Like, you can just automate curl scripts. You don't need to buy something off the shelf with a stupid Postman. It's just unbelievable. Hey, you know what? Everyone ate it up. Hey, new tool, awesome. Everyone's like, oh, we're using Postman to have all this. Like, what the hell? You're just adding more gears to the machine, and it just grinds to a halt. Every little bit of friction, everything you add. And these were like people that I thought were smart, and they're doing these silly things by throwing in tools where you could do something without the tool. But it promised a little, maybe there's a UI. Oh, you don't have to you don't have to edit a text file because you're typing in a text field. Like, you're still typing. Like, it's so stupid. Anyway, so yeah, this whole thing about moving to a new way of thinking. I think this paper that you mentioned is another wake up call to people that especially in this day and age where I'm hearing certain people saying that their bills for AI are $3,000 per developer per month. When you have a paper like this that says, you should use a simpler large language model to do this because you constrained your scope properly. That's really important, and it'll be interesting to see. So I don't know.
Maybe this is really if science proves that event modeling is a precondition for AI, this will change a lot. And I mean, I was aware of this for a long time, and we talked about this for a long time. But maybe finally, some more people will see this.
Yeah,
that this is the enabler. This is what you need.
It's funny because I had that video from last year, or even earlier, where I just pasted in that given when then set from an event model, and that stupid old model still gave me zero hallucinations. It gave me the implementation all the tests, everything passed green on the first try, and it even added an extra test for something I missed. So it was a positive hallucination that needed. Yeah, I keep using that example because that was another one of those aha moments.
Yeah.
As we talked about, discovering the Commodore 64, looking at the Amiga, or discovering open source, or any of these things. This was another one of mine. It's like, I did not expect the large language model to fit the tests and the implementation so perfectly together, not even from text, but from an image that I pasted Cursor. This is very shortly after I got Cursor as an
Nice.
IDE.
Yeah. I like that video a lot. That was fun.
But I mean, look at that video and then read that paper that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Like, that should make it snap in your head. Like, holy smokes, we're into another level of realization that people cannot ignore event sourcing and event modeling. There's just no way to realize what that paper says easily. You can try and struggle with a single abstraction, a non-multi-model way of working, a non-event source working. You're going to bend over backwards to try and get those limited scopes that the paper is talking about.
Yeah.
Here we have it for free. You just have to work this way, and you don't even have to think about it. It's free. It's amazing. Anyway, so by the way, I'm wearing the shirt, which you'll recognize.
I wanted to ask: is that from the Exonic conference?
Yes, it is. It's from the Exonic conference. Yes. So
I did not get one. I did not get. I managed to not grab one. I think they mentioned it a few times. I did not get one.
Oh, well, I'm sure you're close enough that they can probably mail you one. You should talk to them.
maybe next year. Who knows?
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's an amazing paper, and we should. What's it called again? 1,000.
Let me quote it again. You can also put in the link.
I'll put it on the video as well, and we'll put
solving a million-step LLM task with 0 errors. What a clickbait article title! Nice, I love it.
It's exactly what that video I did of pasting that stuff in. That was exactly what it is. It's like it's system. I think they use the Tower of Hanoi as an example, but I don't like that because that's not an information system. That's an algorithm solving thing. So I think you can make a much easier case than they're making. I mean, it's nice that they're giving this through a much harder problem, that this works for a much harder problem. But just imagine if it works for that, how it'll work for a simple information management system, which is what we're doing. Yet another insurance company, all these things that we just deal with.
Yeah, and I mean, a practical example of this is, for example, Sam Hatoum's on Auto. Because what he does is he creates all those slices in parallel, massively parallel. Yeah. So that's exactly what you see there. So many small tasks, which is your slice, and just put on as many agents as you can afford to that. And the more agents you put on it, the faster you're done.
Yeah, great. But I mean, even if you do it one at a time, you're already like light years ahead of like. Of course, absolutely. So this kind of stuff is like, why even focus on the parallel agent optimization when you have such an incredible amount of productivity by adopting by the slice? I really don't care, even if I had to do things, sequentially, one at a time, because the productivity gain is faster than you'll be able to specify what you want anyway. So who cares? Right?
Well, one of the things I sell to companies, because it's true, is this: using slices is the only way I know where more people on the project means more productivity.
Yeah. Exactly.
If you need to have it done faster because you have a looming deadline, just put on more developers on that. It doesn't really matter, and they don't even need onboarding.
Yeah, they don't realize that the reason we have to tell people that this works here is because we don't have the level of coupling that a single model abstraction has, which is the way you do Rails new. It's one giant thing underneath that's a bunch of tables that are all linked, and that is when the accidental coupling happens. That is like, hey, we're looking at the same table, and we have to implicitly know what's that. The problem with this way of working without slices with single model is that not only do you have the explicit referential integrity problems of the data underneath. You have the explicit coupling of the concepts within the code, but then you have the temporal stuff, which is the implicit coupling, where something doesn't directly reference something else, but the effects of that data changing affect something later. So you have the accidental complexities that are happening because you're referencing something you didn't think you referenced, and all of those things are horrible. All three variations of coupling are horrible, and there's probably more. I'm not just thinking off the top of my head of the big ones that come to mind.
Yeah.
And so it's a good time to be adopting event modeling and event sourcing if you haven't. It'll be interesting.
And I mean, the best opportunity for this is the upcoming workshop on December 9th.
Yeah,
absolutely. The best opportunity is joining there, right?
Yeah, so we'll be retweeting, republishing on LinkedIn, and talking about the upcoming stuff. And we should probably get the dates done for December, for 2026, so everyone can plan their year if they can't make these ones. And well, I didn't think we had enough material for an hour, but we certainly did.
I think we always have enough material for an hour. I mean, I think today was the shortest preparation we ever did for one episode. It was about 1 minute. Should we get started? Yes. Okay, hit record.
Yeah.
So we can easily make an hour.
Yeah. No, that's good. All right. Well, if anyone wants to discuss these things, you can find us on the Discord server for event modeling. Martin and I are on there all the time. Martin's been really good at answering questions there, quite in depth about the implementation side. We try to keep the two sides separate so that we don't scare business people that are not technical. You can go to the general event modeling part and discuss that. In implementation, we discuss event sourcing stuff. So there's a separate channel for that. So don't be afraid to jump onto the Discord server, because you'll find a nice place to discuss concepts at whatever level you're comfortable with, whether it's from the business perspective, just modeling out what your system will do, to the intricate questions about how you scale, event source systems and solve some of these other problems in the implementation side. So if you're working with a specific technology, you'll find an answer from me, Martin, or someone else there that has a similar background. So again, that link is on eventmodeling.org resources page. So hopefully we'll see you there, or the workshops, or any of the other events that are coming up in the next year. And until next Sunday, Martin.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would not miss that.
Yeah. Always wonderful to catch up with you and reflect on things. So have a wonderful week, and we'll see everyone here again, same time, same place. Bye, everyone.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.